Hello, everyone. Welcome to another season of Revenge of the Sequel, the podcast just about sequels. It's been a really, really long time, and we're really excited to be back. Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know, if you want to support this podcast and all the podcasts on Delphin Pod, go to patreon.com/DelphinPod, DelphinPod, and for as little as $1, you'll be able to see and listen to all of the exciting shows that we have exclusively there. We actually have 3 or 4 episodes of Revenge of the Sequel that's up online before anyone else can hear them, including a really fun Aquaman episode with Andrew. We've got John Wick up there. So there's a lot of fun things on patreon.com /DelphinPod that you can listen to. Support the pod, get some free shows, listen to more Countdown to Infinity, some video podcasts, watch us do it. And yeah, do that, please.
But their story didn't end there.
How could there have been only one? And he's back in business.
Is the worst idea in history of bad ideas.
Part 2 is the final chapter in the violent history.
This time, it's personal.
A force more powerful than any the world has ever known is about to be unleashed by the 2 people who should know better.
These guys again?
Next summer, Universal Pictures presents Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, John Hannah, Arnold Vosloo, Odette Fair, Patricia Velasquez, introducing Freddie Both, and The Rock as the Scorpion King.
Yeah, that's good. Sandwich them. Welcome to Revenge of the Sequel, the podcast just about sequels. We haven't said that in a really, really long time. Mm-hmm. There's another podcast. Oh, fuck. That has literally eaten up 2 years of our life, but it has been well worth it. We so many amazing people listen to it. It's number 1 in like 4 countries right now, which is insane.
Not this country, right?
No, the United States is a tough market, but we're up there, baby.
Yeah. I don't know why. That sounded like a complaint. That's not what I meant.
No, I mean, it's doing really... And honestly, the downloads awesome. For our country, we have... I mean, it's shattered our records that we keep, on a Post-it note. But it's doing really well.
That Post-it note is pretty full on. I could see it from here.
And I know a lot of you are coming from that other podcast. I feel like I'm not saying it like Baltimore, but... It was called Countdown to Infinity. But a lot of you are here from that podcast, so thank you so much for joining us on our other show.
Yeah, our other, our B child, who was at one point the A child.
Yeah, the thing that started it all, 100 episodes in.
There's more than that, right? Probably like 108 or something like that.
We used to talk about, this podcast has transformed from talking about sequels that we watch, and then for a little bit we talked about sequel news.
Yeah.
And then we went back to talking about sequels. And then we also were like, let's interview actors.
Some people. Yeah, some peeps.
And producers and directors. And then back to sequels again. So this has had a lot of facelifts.
Yeah, it's been and this is probably another facelift. Like this, no doubt this will probably change throughout this season. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, and all for the better. I mean, honestly, I think we've gotten better at this, probably. Hopefully.
We would hope so. I mean, you guys tell us that, but...
yeah, don't go listen to episode 1 or 6 or whatever.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. Please do not do that.
That was rough stuff. We used to record on microphones that were loaned to me from a drummer friend, and so we were talking into microphones made for drums. I don't know if you remember those. Those were like long mic. They were weird, and so these drum microphones are meant to keep things quieter. So we would have to like yell, or it was crazy.
I can't remember that for the life of me. I feel like there's pictures probably online somewhere.
We've also recorded on just a laptop before.
Yeah, on just a laptop.
We've recorded on your Tascam on a table once, like a little recording thing. I mean, right here. Why we're talking about this?
This is really fun. I mean, it's just a little history down this. For all the people joining us from the Marvel podcast. Yeah, it's just a little hit. Now we record. If anyone's seen the little live broadcast on, what do you do it on? Sorry, I've never seen it on Facebook or Patreon, right?
Yeah, I think definitely on Patreon, but I think we put some on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere. But we now record in a much nicer environment, made just for podcasting.
Exactly.
Baby.
Yep. Lots of mics, fucking computer. There's a camera staring at me that isn't on, thankfully.
No, none of it's on.
Not
Lights
anymore.
Aren't on.
Yeah.
So Revenge of the Sequel is a podcast just about sequels. We really just talk about movies that are online, new movies, everything really, as long as it's a sequel. And we've really gotten into some cool conversations about story. And I think, honestly, I feel like in the last 10 years, maybe even the last 20 years, we've seen more sequels than probably in the history of cinema.
Well, it's probably because we're like watching Marvel sequels.
That's true. Just Marvel alone is 22.
How does it feel to be like in a Marvel cleanse? We don't even have a Drew who who does
his commitment's only to the Marvel.
Yeah, exactly. He will be floating. He will no doubt will be back to this podcast eventually. But he does. His tastes are very particular.
Yeah, he would never come to this episode we're doing today. I don't.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, so like that gives him a little bit of some freedom there if he doesn't like the movies.
He's out, baby.
Just like out, yeah.
And he's left us to fucking have to watch these things.
Oh yeah,
some of them are not so fantastic.
Especially this one because we.
Oh, we can just talk about. We're watching Mummy. Wait, is it The Mummy Returns?
It's The Mummy Returns.
The Mummy Returns.
2001 sequel to the smash hit The Mummy.
I remember renting this movie from a Hollywood Videos because they were around still. And I remember watching it, and this is going to blow your mind, John. 20 years ago is when that was. So this movie has been
almost
out
20 years
almost
ago.
20 years.
Yeah,
but that's such a long 20 years
19,
since the first
right?
one for
2001?
Sure. Yeah. So this is a very
18 years, sorry.
It's kind of weird because we watch like old Humphrey Bogart movies and we're like, "Oh, we know what time period that movie came from." And we're in this point and you never know when you're living in it whether or how this movie is going to feel because you don't know yet until you look back how dated it'll be. But I got to say, this movie
has not aged well.
It's pretty dated. And I will say that I don't want to talk specifically about too much stuff yet, but it's not all of it isn't awful, I will say. Like all of the things we're talking about, like things being too dated. I mean, obviously effects are one of the biggest things.
Right, yeah.
Because effects get better every single year, but yeah, I mean, like, I don't know.
It's weird because I think it still works on a nostalgic value. Like, I think that's why, like, I think that's why it's on Netflix. And it was very easy for us to watch it when we were thinking of. We're gonna just go ahead and spoil that, just to, just so that we were trying to figure out movies to pick for this podcast. Obviously, we want to do some popular ones, like John Wick 3 is coming up in the future.
Oh,
and,
that'll be sick.
Yeah, and some other. Now, off the top of my head, I can't fucking think.
Godzilla's coming out.
Godzilla, there
soon.
you go. Yeah. Godzilla's going to be something that we cover here, which is going to be exciting. We're trying to figure out some movies that were, easy access for us, really. And The Mummy Returns was staring at you right in the face on Netflix.
Yeah.
It does, like, again, they're on Netflix, and I feel like when they were put on Netflix a couple of months ago, there was like a surge. I think it was trending on Twitter.
Oh, wow.
That, like, the Mummy movies are back on Netflix, and everyone was, like, excited about them.
There is a sense of nostalgia for these films, I will say, because I remember watching the first one and this one close to when they came out. I don't think I watched them in theaters. I think I might have watched them, again, at Hollywood Video. But
you're plugging something that's just out of business.
Everyone go down the street to Hollywood Video and rent a couple films, baby. They need it at this point. But I remember watching these movies, and it's crazy to think that this was a genre at some point that or even just these series of mummy movies, like PG-13. They're never too violent. Like, or is this rated R?
No, this is PG-13.
Right?
Yeah.
Like PG-13 movies starring Brendan Fraser.
That
are set in like really old, like antique worlds. I don't know what to say. Like
almost like Indiana Jones ripoffs. I feel like
really huge. Oh, a ton of Indiana Jones feel without the same, I feel, moments as Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But I the Mummy series was always so cool, and I'm it may be because it's aged and we're looking back on it that we may have some qualms, but these movies were incredibly successful. Even this film
definitely.
made a shit ton of money. I mean,
Right, and it launched the career of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who was just known as The Rock back
who was
then.
just in his 20s during this movie.
No, I think he was in his 30s
I think
still.
he was 28, 26 or something like that.
He was pretty late to the game.
I know for sure he was born in 1971. So let's do the
Really?
math in our head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, I know the year he was born.
I was about to say, that's pretty awesome.
I think that puts him like 20.
Yeah, he was in his late 20s, probably like maybe early 30s.
Yeah.
This was his first movie. Like big.
He looked good.
He looks like the same.
He looked good CGI.
The actual Scorpion King thing. This led to a spin-off, where he became the Scorpion King, the movie. That became the Scorpion King movie, and then the rest is history. Now, like he's one of the highest-grossing, movie stars in the world. It all started at The Mummy Returns, which is pretty.
That's true, and he's not really in The Mummy Returns for that.
No, not at
for
all.
a long period of time.
Isn't it
very
weird?
Beginning and the very end.
Isn't it weird to think that at one point, not? I guess this. Goddamn, I have to finish my thought now, but I felt like this was like insulting Brendan Fraser. But at one point, Brendan Fraser was like a higher billed actor than The Rock.
You should look up the stuff. What happened to Brendan Fraser? Because do you know that off the top of your head? Because I know that there is somewhat of a drop off from
mainstream where he was
from
doing,
where
right?
he was to where he is now.
I don't remember the details.
We can look it up.
I mean, we probably should just look it up. But I think off the top of my head, I think what happened is he didn't work for like a year because he was actually injured off of like one movie or something like that. Like something, I don't know if it was a movie that he did. I think he helped. I had heard something that like he had helped someone. Like he was helping like literally like a person like through a disaster, event or something like that. And he ended up hurting his back and he couldn't work for like a year.
Yeah, super. So it actually started in 2000. Well, a lot of things happened. He changed agents in 2010. In 2011, for a certain movie, I'm not going to read it because I don't want to get sued or anything. He sued a producer for promised wages. He got into a fight with a producer, like a physical fight. So they sued each other. That's all I'll say. But yeah, it was after that. Because I don't know the details, so I don't want to say anything.
Oh, okay.
Super
I get you. It's like
huge.
You're scared that Fraser's like.
But basically, this producer was very powerful, so he was able to.
Was it that incident that he talked about like recently too? Like where he got blacklisted because of.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I think he went like on record. Like
yeah,
I mean, it's very public. I think he was like a Rolling Stone interview, or I don't know. Could be.
Yeah.
Botching that, but it's an interview somewhere where he said like he was basically like
he was blacklisted pretty much.
Right, exactly.
Because this producer was very powerful, and he experienced it. I mean, and I think as an actor to go from that height to, literally being like the number one highest grossing actor of the time to not being cast even for a movie
and stuff. Yeah,
it's a big hit, and it invades your psyche. It takes not just a toll on your finances, but probably in just the way that you think you're talented. And so it's it's tough thing that happened to him, and it doesn't really happen to that many people because
not unless they're like
it sustains for a long time.
Right, not unless they're like old, because eventually, I mean, Hollywood is
retire.
A tragic place. I mean, they do after a while. People will get kind of like, I guess, bored of you because that's why like the grosses go down and stuff like that.
I will say he is a very charismatic actor.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's funny, which is good for especially these movies. Not so much in the movie we're going to talk about, The Mummy Returns, because I feel like it pales in comparison to The Mummy,
the first one. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy that happened to him, and I can't really think of a good reason why, other than what he's saying is true. Like he probably was just shunned from certain films because of this producer.
And if you don't work for a year in Hollywood time, that's an eternity.
Yeah,
so like you will fall off the map after a while. You won't but it's like a popularity contest. Like no one's really going to care, unless you're like I don't know, like Daniel Craig or something. I mean, the rules are very different now, but. Obviously, it was very sad that what had happened to him.
This may be like an old person tangent that I'm about to be going on, but at that time, there's no Netflix, there's nothing. So you either were just in TV or in these big Hollywood movies. Nowadays, if you weren't in a big Hollywood movie in a while, you could be on a very popular Netflix show or Hulu show.
Right,
or, if your social media following is huge, you're still in the conversation, for a really, really long extended period of time. So the good news for Brendan Fraser is he is getting roles now. Like there's a resurgence for him on TV.
Right,
films,
he's in Doom Patrol, which is like his role in Doom Patrol is critically acclaimed. I recommend if anyone has a DC, you have to get a DC subscription to watch it, but it's one of the better shows, one of the better superhero shows that's out there at the moment. So everyone should definitely watch. If you're a Brendan Fraser fan, you should definitely watch that.
Let's talk a little bit about this franchise, which I don't even know what it's called. The Mummy franchise, I guess. So the Mummy. So it's interesting because I'm looking into it now. In Universal,
one of Universal's oldest franchises, technically,
from 1932. That's when the first Mummy movie came out.
Boris Karloff, right?
It's got a sick, Boris Karloff. It's got a sick poster. I don't know here. I mean,
that one. That's
podcast.
awesome. Yeah,
but it's like these super old
you
classic
see that, guys?
movies. I know they consider them horror adventure films. I will say probably leaned harder into horror in the beginning and more into just big budget adventure stuff.
Oh yeah, do you remember that first Mummy movie? Like not the Mummy Returns, but the one with no, not the Karloff one either, because that Karloff one is pure old Hollywood horror.
1959, they revamped it again for almost an entire decade.
For
1971
Hammer, right?
For the Hammer horror series.
Yeah, and then
With Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee, I remember that.
Epic, yeah,
fucking insane.
Hammer movies. But then when they remade it again in '99, they leaned more onto the adventure side of things. Not that there wasn't any horror, because there was some still horror element to that, because I remember actually being intrigued by that aspect. Not so much the adventure part, but I liked the fact that this mummy, this dead thing was coming to life. I think it was before the zombie resurgence too. Like zombies hadn't really come back into pop culture. I was fascinated by the fact that there's this dead thing walking around and and is plaguing the world into darkness, really. And that's really cool to me. I think I was like 9 when the movie came out, the original one. I had toys. The toys were I thought it was crazy because these toys were very super gory. Like I think if you look up pictures of the old mummy toys, these mummy figures had they had blood and guts hanging out of them while they were walking around and stuff. You didn't get that from the movie, which I thought was hilarious because they're obviously marketing the horror aspect. It's heavier on the toy wise, and I guess the toy companies were probably thinking that this was going to be much more of a horror movie than originally it was. That being said, the original movie was really great. I think it balances that.
Talking about the original
99 one.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was nominated for an Oscar, which is insane for sound editing, but it's still Oscar nominated. But yeah, I think you're right. They definitely leaned harder into
adventure.
And I think they consider them the Stephen Sommers who directed all these movies and.
Stephen Sommers,
but I think he made G.I. Joe.
He did make G.I. Joe eventually.
He makes these really big adventure action movies, but this was kind of for me one of these weird things where the parody. So the critics hated all these movies, all 3 of these movies. Critics hated.
Ebert liked the first one.
Yeah, someone liked it. Yeah. but they always made money, and they always had a really high audience score, A. A-. This movie got an A- audience score. People really enjoyed these films, and they're really enjoyable.
They're fun.
I can see at the time being these sequences are fun. These action sequences are really good. And it is playing into the thing that Indiana Jones, I think, kind of had, which is this supernatural kind of suspense thing. Mixed with action, but also mixed with just having to be smart and an archaeologist knowing I know the origin of this thing or this artifact. That was kind of a cool twist to an action adventure movie. I feel like The Mummy also had that, but it had a lot of supernatural things
in it. A little bit more so than
just the archaeological stuff.
Yeah, I think you had to do that because the movie is called A Mummy, and it is a remake of the original horror franchise.
And we'll talk about it a little bit later on how this was remade again.
Oh yeah, that's totally fucking right. I do. Yeah, it was really fun. I like the. It almost feels like Brendan Fraser was the Chris Pratt of his day, almost swashbuckling Star-Lord esque type of character for that.
Who could still crack jokes in really big moments, and who had a really great way of being bewildered. When something didn't go his way, you were kind of man, this guy's charismatic. Even
because it's his even
confusion.
Just the presence, the screen presence that he has, and the way he's confused, visibly confused or visibly horrified, it's very expressive.
Yeah,
it's really So he was kind of I think he's kind of a Chris Pratt of his day.
Yeah, I think that's the closest comparison, truly.
Yeah,
because he was at that level. Because he was also in Around the World in 80 Days. He was in so
He was
many
in other stuff. I think this was the height of his career, really. Pretty great movie. Really great guy, especially in that first one. I mean, I guess now we can get on to talking about The Mummy Returns, which is this bigger,
which is technically
a bigger,
Yeah.
maybe not so much better sequel.
I honestly say that this movie is kind of our segue to just to talk about all these mummy movies, because there's even, unless we're going to watch The Scorpion King, there's a Scorpion King movie came out last year.
Yeah,
directed,
that franchise is still going on.
Yeah, it's
Ain't
a very
fucking
popular piece of IP. I would have to say, maybe not super popular, but
I mean, it has to be.
Lasting, I guess.
It has to be for it still. Like I just saw going towards The Mummy to watch it earlier, The Mummy Returns. I passed a Scorpion King and I was like, no fucking way. Is this a part 5 or 6? What's going on?
We already know his story. They tell it in the first 5 minutes of this movie, and I think that's all we needed to know. It is an interesting concept to go into the old Mesopotamia Egyptian realm of supernatural stuff. I think partially this is one of the first movies to do that, because we really don't see much of that in a lot of pop culture. A lot horror movies are horror movies, and they're satanic or something. But these movies were really centered around some sort of, and they're not all factual, of course, but they're inspired from Ra and all of the old gods of Egypt and kind of that world, that desert world type thing.
And it's really cool because you have this this sense of unknown to it all, because it's even in these movies, what they explain in their big action sequences, this story was lost to time, so you really don't know, and there's this inexplicable era fantasy about it. So it's they're I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's just there's I guess it's something like that. I like how Lovecraftian is, because you don't really know what's driving these forces other than it's just supernatural evil or something.
And the part that's grounded in truth, where Egyptians were, and again, this has almost nothing to do with the mummy at this point, but Egyptians were at the height of civilization. They were the number one. I don't want to say country, but I don't even want to say government. But the Egyptians and the kings and they ran this whole world, and they were the smartest. They were the most advanced. And then because it was just lost to time, or because other civilizations took over with that mantle, we kind of don't know that much about this group that used to just rule all of Africa, everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that's what's really cool about the movie, is we do get a glimpse, although it is a very whitewashed glimpse of probably what those old 30s movies created, but we kind of get a glimpse into that world. And I mean, I don't know how far deep into the specifics of the movie we have to go. I mean, we could go into it right now, but I mean, it seems like it is very similar to I was going to say Austin Powers, but to Indiana Jones.
This one more so than the first one, definitely.
Yeah, because it is very much let's find this artifact. This artifact is this. These bad guys are also looking for that same artifact. And
then that artifact will possibly, control the fate of the world. You never know.
Then in Mummy Returns, there's a lot of kidnapping that goes on.
There's a lot of kidnapping. There's kids in general.
Literal
in the Mummy.
Kidnapping.
Yeah. So So The Mummy Returns basically picks up a couple of years after that first one.
Yeah.
I think 10 years. The mismatched protagonists of the first film are now married.
Yeah, with children.
Right?
So or with one child.
One child. Apparently, they all go their cave. They all go tomb raiding from time to time. Yeah, as a family event.
Which is insane.
Yeah, it's so. This one's so weird and cheesy compared to the first one, which is just I mean, the first one's silly fun too. I'm not saying that one's the perfect adventure movie, but the fact that they. To make this a family affair, and for it to go on in that third Mummy movie
forever,
is really insane, because they even bring along the brother, that bumbling brother character Jonathan, who's played by John Hannah, who's an amazing actor.
Good, yeah.
The comedic timing is great and stuff.
I think the first time we see him is in that gigantic mansion in Britain that they're in, and then of course the bad guys follow them there.
Any relatability though that these maybe that I don't know if anyone can relate to Brendan Fraser's character unless they're they think they're douchey or something, but any relatability that the characters had is gone, because these characters start off as being very rich from their exploits in the first movie,
and the characters kind of are lost in this movie filled with just insane plot, much
all it is
story.
Is plot, just plot.
And I will
and
say,
action scenes.
I feel because I think the first movie, wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're also trying to raise an army of the Undead 2 in the first movie, right?
No, well, the first movie, I
Were
think
they just the mummy?
there was just the mummy, the Imhotep character played by Arnold Vosloo, who, again, one of the most expressive people I've seen,
Yeah.
like, ever in film, because the motherfucker, I'm thinking of, like, that big water, wall of water that he,
Yeah.
like, the way that he had to act that out, like, just by opening his mouth,
Yeah.
like, very large.
Big,
Yeah,
big mouth.
it's just so fucking comedic. I'm surprised, like, no one, I almost guarantee people were laughing, like, the day he was, like, kind of acting like that. But, so the first one involves the mummy trying to resurrect his loved one, which is I think
that girl.
I think that's also a central plot to the original 1930s. Like that's the whole isn't that the whole thing like in the original 30s movies too?
Yeah.
And so like they kind of update that for
Even
the
more so, I think, in the old ones.
Yeah. I think it's like more of a theme of love in the old one than it is like in this new one. The new one kind of it's like a swashbuckling adventure. So that was the plot of the first one. No army was involved.
Okay. But there was something that he was reviving as well that was going to like affect the Earth, wasn't there?
I think it was like I think when he revives his bride. Shit, I can't remember that first mummy. We probably should have watched that beforehand too. Reviving that bride character apparently will kill the Rachel Weisz character. There you go. And so that became motivation because she was the damsel in distress basically for that movie.
Yeah.
So that was like the stakes. The girl's gonna die. The Evelyn character was gonna die, and so Brendan Fraser had to stop that from happening.
And it looks like in the first movie, I remember now that they're reviving. They had that book.
Yeah, the Book of the
Dead.
Dead.
The 10 plagues of Egypt from the Bible, from when Moses they were unleashing that onto the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean it's all about reviving things. I mean that's something that's in this movie too. Is they're reviving two people. Right? Two people, the Scorpion King and
I guess the mummy at the beginning too. Because
Yeah.
they start off with like a very CGI Arnold Vosloo in that mummy, in that undead form, which is like
really interesting.
it was interesting. I thought it worked better in the first movie because he's like a little bit more grotesque in that first movie.
Yeah.
Like his jaw is like hanging off. In this one, he kind of just looks like Arnold Vosloo, like in motion capture, which is pretty funny.
And this movie does kind of delve into just like the limits of CGI, I will say, because the entire army, and I was going to say this in the beginning, the effect that really aged well for me was in the beginning when they showed the human army. That looked great. Like all the humans together. I felt
all those extras?
Yeah,
like almost like silent film-esque.
Oh, yeah. I was like, this is an epic movie. This is just like the Game of Thrones episode that we just saw this last week, like multiplied by people. And then suddenly you see the army of
Anubis,
and you're like, oh, God, like this is insane. Like I mean, I know that's probably the best of the science fiction effects of the time because when I watched it, I was totally bought in. But looking back now, you're like, man, this is kind of weird. And why didn't they have some practical ones at least to balance out the
other ones? Yeah,
the other ones because they really lean heavily, and there's so much of that in this movie. Like
it's a lot.
It's a big practice in what ILM can do, kind of. But also, I will say this: that the Indiana Jones aspects. There's a moment when like all these pillars are falling. I think, and you knew, and when you're looking at it, you knew they were actually were like falling, and you're like, man, this is like old school. They had to build the set that big because they had to squeeze that many people in there, kind of thing. Or even when they're digging in the beginning, you're like, man, they had 100 extras digging out here. Right. I don't think they would do this anymore.
No, not at all. Yeah, they would just kind of multiply. I mean, there was kind of stuff like that. Apparently, there was only 250 soldiers for the giant battle at the very end between the humans and the Anubis soldiers.
Yeah, before they got dusted, just like
Avengers. Just like Avengers. We're just bringing it back now. They're just going to do nothing but Avengers callbacks here in a second.
They got snapped.
Yeah.
And then they came back.
Well, there was only 250 soldiers there, and they, the CGI helped them look 10,000. So they basically like copied and pasted, like,
and that's
basically
what I'm saying.
across the
that
bat.
looked good. Human soldiers, it looked fantastic. Anubis soldiers.
Yeah, and the Scorpion King himself, which was like,
crazy at the end that the Scorpion, and I don't even think he says any. Does he say anything at the end?
He has like some
couple,
lines,
right?
yeah,
But
some ancient Egyptian lines or something like that. I mean, I don't remember what he says, but I know he speaks.
Yeah. And because looking back, this was a major draw for me. It's like The Rock's in this movie. The Rock's in this movie.
Yeah, that was.
And then you're like, oh, The Rock's not in this movie, really.
Which I remember at the time, I was like, here's a little bit of a fun fact. I don't know if this is a fun fact at all. The fun part. I don't know why this is fun. I used to really be into like professional wrestling. Like maybe around the time that this movie came out.
Yeah.
I was heavily into wrestling, and so when I heard The Rock was going to be in this movie.
You were
my mind was blown. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I think coming out of this movie, I really enjoyed the fuck out of it. Like I remember being like, I think I may have saw this movie one more time in theaters, which is rare, for
That's
like
insane.
for like an 11-year-old to do.
Yeah, I did not see this movie in theaters.
I saw this movie in theaters, and I saw it twice. It's because I saw the first one in theaters. I think I actually
I
met.
didn't watch that. You met The Rock?
I met my brother-in-law, like who he eventually became my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Like I met him, like he's the one who took me to go watch that movie, and it was pretty. It was very epic. What were we going on for? Like I thought we were getting to a point here.
I was just saying how dated the effects look.
Oh,
but
yes,
you
yes.
went to the theaters, and I bet you were really impressed.
I was super impressed, obviously. That being said, I mean, you're watching it now. I watched it, a couple of hours ago to prepare for this podcast.
Yeah.
It is very, very dated.
So this movie was the number 6 highest grossing movie of the year, which is pretty high up.
What are the other
I'm
ones?
going to read
right
you the
above it?
list. I'm going to read the top 10. I really want to read more than that because this really tells you just the success of a lot of these franchises are still around now, which is insane.
Let's see. Read
So number 1 of that year was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, of course. This is domestic box office, just BT dubs. But Harry Potter's franchise still around.
You're right. Yeah, the Fantastic Beasts.
What are they calling it? Potter World or something?
Pottermore.
Pottermore. Is that what they're calling this new world? Like they have a name.
Oh
for
no,
it.
the Wizarding World.
The
That's what
Wizard,
it's called.
yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the King, still around now. It's an Amazon Prime
Amazon show,
series.
yeah.
But yeah, The Hobbit came out just a couple of years ago. That was number 2. Number 3, Shrek, which I don't know if that's coming back, but I feel like it will.
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't bet against it. I'm pretty sure it might be coming
Yeah.
back.
But really, I remember, you know what? I saw Shrek in theaters this year, which is insane.
You saw Shrek, but not
I
The Mummy
did.
Returns.
I know.
God damn it.
Monsters, Inc. came out this year. Rush Hour 2 came out this year. And then The Mummy Returns was number 6. I'm just going to finish off the rest here. Pearl Harbor, Ocean's 11, Jurassic Park 3, Planet of the Apes, Beautiful Mind, Hannibal, American
Jurassic
Pie
Park
2.
3.
The Fast and the Furious was the 14th highest grossing movie that year. And this actually is surprising to me because this is so similar, I feel like, to the demographic of Mummy Returns. But Laura Croft came out this year too. And I was like,
The
man,
first
that's-
one?
Yeah, Tomb Raider.
Oh wow.
Wait, is that the first one?
Is it? Is it the Cradle of Life or is
No,
it?
Tomb Raider. Yeah,
Oh
the
yeah,
first one.
that's the first one. Yeah.
So yeah, it's insane because that's kind of the same type of movie I
Yeah,
feel
uh-huh.
to this, and I mean, more people watch The Mummy Returns, but it's that year's insane. And you know what's crazy to look at in this year are the films that are still around, but the ones that got better. I don't know how to say that, but Fast and Furious being the 14th highest grossing to now being like a juggernaut.
Oh yeah.
It seems like studios were just like, well, let's just keep doing it, and it will fucking hit, and it did. Like
Holy shit!
the
Does
Fast
it,
and
does it
Furious
hit?
movie hit hard, and it got really insane.
That's really funny that The Rock would eventually join that franchise
I
and
know.
be its Viagra. Really.
Yeah, and really changed the way it is. And Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, also on the same list. They kept making that, and it
Oh,
worked.
yeah.
The Planet of the Apes had a really good redo. All these movies.
Oh,
I
that
mean,
fucking Planet of the Apes was that year too?
2001, the
yeah,
Tim Burton, I
the
think. But
Tim
yeah,
Burton one,
and
yeah.
so it's crazy to look at this list and be like, a lot of times studios won't be discouraged because these are really low numbers. The amount of money this movie's made are highest grossing, but they're not super huge. I mean, Mummy Returns $202 million in the United States. That's like nothing.
That is nothing.
nowadays. I mean, that's like a budget for a movie nowadays. But it's crazy to think like, and this is kind of a broader sequel thing. But studios don't give up. Like this is now almost 2 decades ago, and a new Fast and Furious movie is coming out. Like a new Jurassic World movie is probably going to come out.
A new Mummy movie is probably in the works. I mean,
to
probably
be
not anytime
TBH,
soon.
for
Yeah,
sure.
but, like,
Because it is insane to think like
not with Tom Cruise, but
we talk about like we act like this whole thing where they're going back into the well and trying to pull out nostalgia. But not only is it working, but I don't feel like 20 years ago is that long. Like
not at all. I mean, that's just kind of mind-boggling because like this was I still remember that even watching it. Like I feel like I obviously didn't watch the whole thing because like as you start watching it, like I'm kind of like remembering everything that's happening,
and they
like
really
almost detail
melded
per
to
detail.
one thing because there's a sequence in the museum. There's a sequence when they're in a temple, and there's a sequence where they're in another
this
temple.
This movie is like very fast-paced, mostly almost like nothing but action. They kind of overdo a lot of what like made the first one special. Like there's no kind of like
and they do increase the visual element, and by that I mean gigantic armies, a bunch of CGI like
stuff
scorpions
just in general. Yeah.
There's even a moment where Rachel Weisz has like she can see into the past a lot of times. I don't know if you
Oh yeah, like these little
that happens a
flashbacks.
lot.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, this sequence is impressive. It's probably really expensive, but also like cool.
Yeah. I mean, it feels hollow at the end of the day because like there's not a whole lot. There really isn't a whole lot happening. It's like you're following. It's like a chase between like little locations, and then a battle scene happens.
And it's like they have, and I guess because they're wealthy, they do have kind of unlimited resources because they travel a couple times, but it's like, hey, they kidnapped your. I mean, this is literally something that happens. They kidnapped your wife. Let's go after them. Oh, now they've got your son. Let's go after him.
And then that's it. That's the movie.
And that's it. Yeah. So and then like, oh, your son was in this place, so now you're also here, where all this other crazy shit's gonna happen. So it is an interesting, and I feel like we compared to Indiana Jones a lot, but Indiana Jones had a lot more beats than this. Like it had sequences that were very similar, but there were also moments.
It's almost like James Bondish. So like the globetrotting was way bigger, and this one I feel like we kept to. I don't know, because they do globetrot with this. I just don't know why the same. It's not the same feeling. Like it wasn't as satisfying as when you watch like an Indiana Jones movie or something.
Yeah, and I feel like Indiana Jones had not just Indy, but the relationships that he has, and because he's such a world traveler, there was always a part of Indiana Jones to me that felt like we just caught him in one of his many adventures.
Right.
Because we normally in the beginning get somewhat of a cold open where he's finishing up an adventure. Then we see him in the adventure in the movie where he happens to know all these people or all these languages, and you're really impressed because you're like, how is he friends with this dude? Like, this guy's like in the other side of the country and he's friends with him, or how does he know this language? And then it ends with like a cliffhanger to be like, oh, there's going to be more adventures. So I always felt like Indiana Jones was somewhat more serialized, I guess, than this movie, because this movie does have a clear ending. And, like this is it. Like, we wrapped it all up. Like, we stopped the world from ending again. And then Indiana Jones is also, they really focused in on a relationship, whether it is the love interest or his father from the last one and the love interest.
Right, yeah.
Like, there was a lot of good, like, character work that was happening. There's always a conflict. Either it's Indy, and I'm trying to remember her name, but she was way smarter than Indy, and so there was always like
Marion River,
Marion, or like the dad thing that happened in the last one, and so there isn't anything like that in this. Like the characters are the characters, and they're just in these situations.
Yeah, and it's almost like they don't really learn anything from the last movie too, because like I think none of the characters. I think the O'Connells matured a bit, but for the most part, they're kind of still acting like the way they did in the last movie. Evelyn isn't like as like. Well, I guess like her character's a little bit. Obviously, they changed because they have a family because of it. But you look at the Jonathan character. The Jonathan character was played by John Hannah. He's the exact same. Like it's almost like this is a character that just doesn't learn for the sake of comedic relief.
And it's almost like we need. I don't know if this is the. I think that may be the kind of hero we liked at the time, where we were just like, just be you, just do what you always do. That's what we liked from our heroes at the time. And now I feel like when we watch movies, we almost want to see a human hero with, but I don't feel like that's like a nowadays thing. Like I think that's just it's kind of more natural. Like they have to have somewhat of a flaw or something that's going to make them a better person, from being doing all these heroic things. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I always felt like Indiana Jones also had a flaw a lot of times in his movies.
Yeah, definitely.
And he had to like conquer it too, or whether it was some relationship or just the impending danger that, So I just don't think these characters had much of a flaw in the movie to overcome. So you were just like, there was a very literal flaw, which was, their kid got kidnapped, or like a very, they were definitely in distress. I will say that, like, there was stuff that happens.
Yeah, there wasn't any room for I think Brendan Fraser is the same person at the beginning that he was at the end of this movie, so like there wasn't like a giant, growth for any of these people. Maybe the Rachel Weisz character, Evie, maybe.
But I think but I also say that this movie was not. They should have made this movie the way it worked.
Definitely.
The audience loved it. It's fun to watch, and I can see how this movie is fun. Like it has great sequences. It's a ton of action. You're gonna get your money's worth if you did go to the movies or go to the Hollywood Video. Like it's still a really fun movie to watch, and it's still it's still fun. Like I don't know what else to say. Like it's entertaining. So.
I think that's the only way you can really classify. I mean, it's a really fun movie. Yeah. It's obviously doesn't hit that high mark that the first one did. Not that the first one's like a great piece, grade A entertainment or anything, but the first one was really effective for what that one was. This one dials everything up a little bit like to 11.
It
like,
is
a little
just
bit too
more.
much. Yeah, it's just really
just
more of
more.
what the first one was. Maybe minus some of that horror element because that first one had a genuine sense of creepiness to the tone. This one's a little bit more playful. Even like in the music, you hear it's like very gung ho, and
Yeah.
like the fanfare is like very much like reminiscent of an Indiana Jones movie.
And I
As
like-
opposed to like the first Jerry Goldsmith score
Yeah.
from the first one, which is like very like haunting.
Well, that's what and we can talk a little bit about the future of this franchise now because we were actually talking quite a bit about this movie.
Yeah, I know. It's really so funny that we like got. This is the same thing what happened with the
Yeah.
end game, where like the more we talked about it, the more we got excited about it, which
But I
is really
think
funny.
Our tangents are going into like broader movie, pop culture, all the Mummy franchise stuff, which is good because
Yeah.
if we were just talking about what happens in this movie, like bookend it to just what happens in this movie, this would be a very different episode.
Right, that's true. We weren't actually we weren't pumped to talk about this movie
No,
before
I mean
we started
thought this was gonna
recording.
be over already. But so I do still like the idea of them keeping this franchise going because I think there is something really special about horror adventure or like this just idea of the Mummy. I still like
and it's
it.
just like an icon. It's an icon,
Yeah.
like a film icon,
Mhm.
really. Like if you think about it, like
It's really just that line. Where do you draw it between the two? Because there was a new Mummy movie
there
with
was, and it
Tom Cruise, like friggin' box office.
couple box office bomb. Really.
Well, yeah,
Like,
but yeah, he's a box office star in a movie that didn't do as great.
Right.
But they also tried to build like this whole Monsterverse. I would say Marvel-like.
Marvel-like
But I didn't want
universe.
to say
yeah,
Marvel
yeah.
again because we've talked about it a lot. But yeah, but it is. They're trying to build.
Are those
a
like
freaking
just words you're not trying to hit? Like Captain? Nope. Sorry.
trigger words,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, so they did try to make this Monsterverse, which I thought was going to be
Grand, right? Because like that's something that you shared. Everyone wants a shared universe nowadays. I think actually people are that the idea of a shared universe is now dying down because of either Endgame or because it's really hard to do. Because like DC tried to do it and they kind of like weren't they weren't as successful.
And then also TV is so good that it's like sometimes a better way for you to do
Something
the
like
thing
that.
you were trying
Yeah,
to do.
exactly. It just didn't like that. I really wanted that dark universe concept to work,
Yeah,
especially
I thought it was
because
cool.
they were going to bring basically together, which was the way the old movies worked anyway, kind of sort of, because the original Universal monsters had like a little shared universe in them. They did eventually meet up in I think House of Frankenstein or something like that.
Mhm.
Before it was like Abbott and Costello. I think like met them at one point too. Like they all had like adventures there. I like the idea of like a monster or like a not like a monsterverse like the Godzilla in the Godzilla sense, but I do like the classic monsters like kind of like existing in one universe. I thought that was going to be really interesting.
Yeah, and I think it just boils down to how much of this they want to make an action franchise almost.
That's the thing too, because like these at the end of the day, these came off of like horror movies, and yes, I mean old Universal 1930s horror is very different from today's horror because back then it's basically this giant play, like it's just a no one had seen makeup effects like the way you put on Boris Karloff or something. Those were the things that appeal to them. Like they're just giant it's basically like very glorified theater sort of. I guess I know that might they might get some hate from some Universal purists, but like that's what when you watch them now, that's what you kind of like get out of it. Like it's just the spectacle of like seeing stuff like that you've never seen before. Like Bela Lugosi and his Dracula makeup, or like him turning into a little bat on a string. That's like that was like ooh. But at the very end of the day, those were like horror franchises.
Yeah.
And
especially for the time in the 30s, horror was like it was defined by those monster types movies, and then like you can look back and say that horror, like those movies meant something. Like they were either they were like allegories for something else, that was happening at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like now I don't know what it is. I feel like maybe because it is an industry and they do want it to be profitable, they understand that action movies play everywhere around the world.
Right. Yeah.
And they don't care, like without even context of the monsters, Tom Cruise in an action movie, sure, will make money.
Right.
So
yeah,
I don't know if that's what they're thinking. And they're like, oh, well, if people go see this Tom Cruise movie, maybe we'll introduce them to this world. And they're like, okay, well, let's buy into
like
it.
a little backdoor, almost pilot.
Yeah.
if you
So
will.
I really don't know. And I think even just in the broader sense, I don't know how it works going into something thinking that it's going to be a universe. I think of the successful universes that we have now, and really there are a couple, and obviously we'll talk about the Marvel universe, but that that didn't come all out of. I mean, they had to make sure Iron Man worked first. Like they
Right,
focused
yeah.
on that first. Just on the horror aspect, the Conjuring verse super successful now.
But every movie, I think they focus on it. Well, I mean, not so much lately, but like I think every movie
Was
you take that one movie at
yeah,
a time, which
and
is like I
that's
think
huge. They didn't go in thinking we're going to make
a universe.
a
yeah.
universe. It just came about to where they were like, well, the movie was really successful, so let's capitalize on that after the fact, and hopefully
Right,
you
yeah.
bought enough goodwill. And I'm trying to think of more that have done it super successfully. I mean, I guess Fast and Furious has in some way,
But
but I
they're
feel like that's like just a
just very-
combination of star power
And just
action.
very obvious, yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's not, yeah. It's kind of tough because I feel like at one point people weren't really listening to what Feige was saying.
Yeah,
Because everyone's
For-
trying to
for-
make
yeah.
the universe, and Feige said it time and time and again. He's like, "Well, we didn't go." It's what you just said. Like, we didn't go out to create a universe. We
Yeah.
just thought like,
Wanted to be profitable. Damn it.
yeah. And then that universe thing at the very end, the stinger credits at the end of Iron Man was like, it's just for the fans. Like, it was literally just a wink
Yeah,
to the fans.
we had
and
no
then,
plans for
No,
the
no,
Avengers, really.
Yeah, it was, and then it was just like an idea that just grew really. But again, it never. I mean, obviously they did some blunders. Like Iron Man
Yeah.
2 was the first one where they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be focusing on a universe. Maybe we should focus on a movie at a time.
Yeah. And they learned
then
that,
go for it. Yeah.
And it's just like supply demand. Like you have to make sure the demand is there before you announce the supply.
Yeah.
But I remember this Dark Universe thing. They
had
announced
production offices, which is
they had
like
production. They had a what do they
lot
call them? Like
bought
a
up.
think tank or
Yeah.
like a group of writers that were going to come up with all these stories. They had release dates for everything from Wolfman for everything.
they had a photo shoot. They had remember
With
they
all the
cast
actors,
Javier
yeah.
Bardem as the who the fuck was the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Like he was Frankenstein. They were they had Johnny Depp cast before
Jesus,
all
I didn't
the
know that. I forgot about Johnny Depp.
yeah they this was before his I think this was right before all of his his scandalous shit hit the web. They had cast Johnny Depp as the Invisible Man, which
That's cool.
now is being retooled by Blumhouse.
Yeah, which is I think a better way, and it's kind of like we're seeing it now. And even just if we took, I mean, off tangent, like DC hashtag release the Snyder Cut. I'm just kidding, but think about what DC has done. Like they've made some good movies that have hit audiences pretty well, like Aquaman and Wonder Woman. But they can you imagine if they had those two big successes and they're like, well, let's build off of this. Like, let's see what we can do now that we know the ones that work. I don't know. Like, instead of like, let's connect them all first. And then,
Right, yeah, which is what they did originally.
yeah, and then hopefully people like the separate stuff. And then not to say that, I mean, I'm rooting for everyone to do really well. But,
Right, yeah.
But it is kind of this weird thing that we're in. And it is just, I feel like the biggest thing that has influenced all of this is just the way that we consume media. And by that, I mean, with streaming, we're used to a story taking place over everything being connected and for it to all make sense after like 10 hours or something like that. And Marvel came at such a perfect time. And the Conjuring verse came at such a perfect time where it mirrored that viewing habit, where it was
Right,
like,
yeah.
did you see the last one? Because there's something at the end of the last one that goes into this one, and that like weird connection. But Marvel also made everything stand alone, which was fantastic.
Right, yeah.
And they did it like with much larger budgets than a lot of streaming shows, but like Game of Thrones now. But I feel like that's really what everyone's trying to do is try to get to the point where they've made such goodwill from audiences because of the original works that worked well, like Godzilla worked really well. And so now they're able to, make really insane universes. But this is an example. The Mummy universe has been around forever. I don't think they're going to stop. They're going to remake
Oh,
the
definitely
Mummy
not. Yeah,
soon.
eventually, yeah.
But it's just whether or not it's going to be something that reflects the times. Because I think, bringing it back to Mummy Returns, it reflected the times. I think that was a perfect movie for 2001.
Oh yeah,
1999.
definitely. Yeah, it's
I'm sure the 30s
it's the
movies
height one.
were
Yeah,
good too.
And then even the Tom Cruise one. I mean, for
yeah.
a couple of years ago, like it's basically what. Now the audience, as soon as it was like announced, and then as soon as you saw that trailer, you knew it wasn't going to be good because it's like, oh, this is not like what you really want.
And I watched that movie.
Have you really?
Not
Is
in
it
the
good?
theaters. I watched it on I think it was on HBO.
How is it? Give us your take right now.
They leaned. That's
Do
why
they
I'm like
lean into the
they-
horror, or into the hard? Lean into the harder aspects.
They
No.
did. It is a horror. There's like horror sequences, but I feel like because Tom Cruise is there in the horror sequence, you expect him to just shoot it or something. Like it's kind of weird.
So his presence is. I mean, it's what I thought anyway. Like his presence
Yeah.
is way. It's like what Ben Affleck was to Batman. Like you just
Oh.
can't see
yeah,
Batman, you see Ben Affleck. You see like
yeah, it's incredibly. It. I don't want to. That movie, I don't feel like it's a dark movie for sure. It's a dark. I don't know if you know the storyline, but he's like being possessed as well. So
yeah, he's like an actual dead person
yeah,
who's like affected
he comes
by
back
this. Like,
so it is like a really dark movie.
but it's very action heavy.
Very action heavy. It's not very funny. Like there's not too much levity in this movie, and it
like it's not as fun because that's why people even compare it to the '99 film, which is like, I mean, the '99 movie isn't so much a horror, but it's like got horror elements, but it's like it's fun.
Yeah.
Like it's way more fun than I guess.
And there's scenes from this universe we're talking about because what's his name is in it. Who's the guy from Gladiator?
Oh, Russell Crowe.
He's in this movie.
Yeah.
And then you're like, who is this guy? And then
he's Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh shit, he's gonna be like in something later on. But so it is a really weird, interesting movie. But I'm sure they're gonna retool it, and I don't know what they'll do with it. I mean, it's weird. I think they really want it to be action packed and adventurous. Because I don't know. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't want it to be just a really scary movie at first.
Yeah, because I think that's what. I mean, it's a monster movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day. So, like, I think Blumhouse, now that Blumhouse has a hold of this, I think they're going to do it right.
Yeah.
I hope they would anyway. So, like, we don't really know. I mean, Lee Weinel is directing the Invisible Man, which Lee Weinel directed. He directed one of the Insidious movies, and then I think he directed, like, the fuck else did he direct? He directed some Saul's stuff, and then he directed
well, that's what I was going to say.
Upgrade,
Great friends with James Wan.
Yeah.
Came up together. So, and here's my thing. James Wan is fucking ruling Universal right now. Between him and Jason Blum, they are it for Universal, I feel. Because Blumhouse makes money every movie because they just know how to shoot it very cheaply, but also they know how to market it. And James Wan delivered the Conjuring universe to Universal, and now with Aquaman, and they're letting him basically
be more in charge of
run
like
the
DC.
run as much of Universal as possible. But Lee Weinel, like, so I feel like the same 3 or 4 people, because also Jason Blum produces a lot of the same.
That's true.
Like, I think these guys are good and talented, and if Universal kind of leans in, does what Marvel did, which was trust the filmmaker. Like, who knows? We may end up liking the next thing.
Yeah. Again, though, like, not that every universe needs like a giant crossover or anything like that.
Really
it's kind of
doesn't.
funny.
That's what I'm saying. Like, make a good single movie.
Yeah, like, there's not going to be a fucking Conjuring Avengers. Like, did you expect to see that? I hope not. Like, I think we're giving people ideas here. I really hope Blumhouse doesn't listen.
I don't know if you've seen the trailer for Annabelle, the third Annabelle.
Yeah.
But it does feel that way because a
really?
lot of it takes place in the basement where they keep all of the shit from the other ghost stories. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I feel like it's leading up to that because not only is the Annabelle doll there, but also the thing from The Conjuring is there, and then all these haunted objects are down there. And I'm like, fuck, this little girl is gonna die because all the demons and ghosts are downstairs.
That is really funny. That being said, the original Monsters universe did have like a crossover thing called House of Frankenstein, which was in itself remade into like a 1998 TV movie because I remember watching that as a kid. If they do something like that, it should be like a House of Frankenstein type of like
and it's weird
movie.
though because are these monsters? I assume in the Monsterverse that they were creating, these are good guys, and they're all going to fight like a Thanos, like, you know, or at some point they're
or
going to
everyone's
come
just
together.
fighting themselves.
Yeah, like I don't understand. Like what is the threat that like I don't get why they would ever be in each other's thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I mean, have you ever seen that Van Helsing movie, which is supposed to be like they also had like versions of the Universal monsters in that one?
It's just interesting
because I think I remember watching that original House of Frankenstein like in '98, not the original one because the original one I wasn't born. You know, not the fucking '50s or '40s one or whatever. The TV one, the NBC one that starred Terry Polo from Meet the Fockers, you know, of that franchise. It was like the monsters at each other's throats. Like it was like a Frankenstein.
That's interesting. That's cool.
A Frankenstein character that like, you know, that like I think the LAPD found that Frankenstein is alive or loose in like LA, and they need his blood for something. I think I forgot, but
it's
like
closer to like a Godzilla thing where they're fighting each other.
Where they're fighting each other. Yeah, because the Dracula character basically is at odds with the Frankenstein character, and then there's a werewolf that comes into play that starts to like you know that gets basically. So it's these monsters at each other's throats. So I think like that's the only thing you can do with a little crossover. That'd be pretty fun.
Because I don't want them to be superheroes. Like I don't want them to be saving the world from something.
They're saving the world from Universal and some movie executives. That should be
just
like
weird. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That being said, let's get into some trivia for The Mummy Returns.
Oh, how exciting.
Because we didn't really talk. I mean, this is a Mummy Returns episode, but the movie itself isn't as interesting as we're making it seem to be.
Yeah.
That being said, let's make it more interesting for you. So.
Are you going to ask me questions?
No. I'm not. Do you want me to?
No, I mean, I don't know how you're going to do this. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to. I mean, I just went to IMDb and got some trivia for this, which is like pretty cool. Because I think I've read. I used to frequent IMDb, the website. Let me go on a little tangent here. A lot. And in reading the trivia for this movie, I was like, I've read this before, like years ago, which is pretty insane. Rachel Weisz and Patricia Velasquez, the people who play, two actresses who play Evelyn O'Connell and the other one, Anak Sunamun, in the movie. They trained for 5 months for their fight sequence.
Guacamole! I remember that fight sequence.
Yeah.
At the end, right? With
no, it's that and the one where they're in ancient Egyptian times, where they're like fighting.
Yes.
They use no stunt woman for that scene, which I think is crazy and maybe a bit of a lie, or maybe not. I don't know why I'm thinking it's a lie, but I just like there's one scene where Rachel Weisz is literally like backflipping like gymnast style and like jumping on walls and stuff, and I was just thinking like that's fucking awesome that apparently they had no stunt woman for this scene.
That's really cool. And Rachel Weisz is I will say she's probably one of the biggest actresses in these mummies. Franchises.
I think that this was a stepping stone for her. Like I think she was in a bunch of other stuff. I think before the Mummy, but I think the Mummy was like a breakout.
Did she win an
role.
Oscar?
Yeah, she did. I think the Constant Gardener.
Yeah. So I mean, insane. I think of all of them. I mean, now I'm thinking about it. She probably is the most famous A-list actor in all of these,
other than The Rock, who like went on.
Oh,
to,
that's
like,
true. The Rock. Forgot he's in this movie.
Yeah, The Rock is he's in this movie. Funny thing about Arnold Vosloo, I guess this is pretty funny. Had to shave his body twice a day. His entire body, because originally he was trying waxing, but like he couldn't stand the pain.
What I'm interested in is like, is that based in any truth? Were all Egyptians
just like very hairless?
Because I assume at the time
the pharaoh looked like he was pretty hairy. You saw
know.
the pharaoh, like don't touch the pharaoh, but you can touch my priests and everything else.
That's what that's interesting because I'm like I don't know where they base that off of.
Oh,
I guess the paintings, but of course they wouldn't grow hair on the painting.
I almost think that this is an era of like Hollywood before they did a whole lot of research on this shit. Maybe
you could definitely tell this movie is fucking insane.
Because I think the Scorpion King is like loosely based off of like King Scorpion or something like from mythology.
Yeah,
but like there was no like fucking campaign. Obviously, like there was none of this happened like at all. Like, and then I think everything is very loosely adapted from just. I think someone read what we're doing now, basically. Like someone read a Wikipedia article or something on these things and then just base the screenplay around it.
I mean it's
because they're not historians at the end of the day. I'm gonna quote Roland Emmerich when Roland Emmerich was like being criticized for the science in his movies. He's like, I'm not a scientist, I'm a filmmaker. So like for them, the same thing. They're not historians, they're filmmakers. They're just trying to make you feel something.
Yeah, and they do use a lot of. I wonder if that's actually because they didn't speak Egyptian at the time. They spoke like this super. Like this forgotten language, this old. So I mean, even that, I'm like, I don't know. Who knows?
Even what The Rock says, I think at the beginning, it's not actually. It doesn't translate to anything. I think it translates to "It's hot as hell in here."
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's literally what it translates.
Oh, jeez.
Funny thing about The Rock is actually he suffered from food poisoning. No, from food poisoning, and
during the movie, or is he just saying
and sunstroke? Yeah, during the movie, like during that filming scene. I think like the weird thing is like I feel like did they take these actors out to the fucking actual desert and film this shit? Because like it looks like incredibly hot.
I think they did. I mean, we could probably look at the location, but yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, no, that's pretty funny. Well, not pretty funny. It's terrible. He apparently said it was like the worst feeling he's ever felt in his life. Wow. Like,
but he was just starting off. Like he was just starting.
Imagine if that impression would have stuck with him though. He probably would have just like gone back to wrestling and just done that full time forever.
Yeah, and I'm wondering why they casted him. I don't know if it's because he was.
I think he was very popular at the time. Like
he was still a really big wrestler.
2001, yeah. Because like I said, I watched wrestling around the time the movie came out, and he was like at the top of his game. He was like, that was it. Like he was at the height of his stardom wrestling wise, and so that's why they did the. Crossover into let's try movies and see what we can do.
They probably didn't trust him yet with a bigger role, so they were like, "Let's see how you do now."
And
now
stuff like that.
He fucking carries movies now. Like he's the biggest.
Yeah,
he's like he has his own. He gets spin-offs off his shit.
He had a little video where he congratulated the Avengers for being the biggest movie, and I just thought like that's such a Rock thing to do. Yeah. Like The Rock is like, "Hey, imagine if this movie had me." or
Well-
something like that. You know what I mean? Like that's basically what I feel like he's trying to say.
He has such a big social media following. I think we talked about this. How he gets a cut of promotional budget now.
I was just laughing because he in that little video he says like he's been trying to have lunch with like Kevin Feige. He makes the impression that him and Feige just have different schedules, but they're trying to have lunch with each other.
Yeah.
Now I'm just thinking like he can never be cast in a Marvel movie because he always does
He's just The
BTS
Rock.
stuff.
Yeah.
He's The Rock. He basically like working with Ed Norton. Like that guy's gonna have final say on your script, and like not whoever you're at. Not whoever's directing this movie. Like,
Yeah,
you know
and
what I mean?
who's the character? First of all, that he can kind of. I mean, like I feel like Groot maybe. I'm kidding.
But also,
he should
like,
take the Groot role from Vin Diesel. That'll be interesting.
right? And
That
Black
fight.
Adam is perfect because one, that character isn't as popular as The Rock thinks it is. Two, like because of that, I think The Rock like can
He'd bring
elevate
it.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he'd
exactly.
Bring it up.
And so I just think it's hilarious because, like, yeah, that video was just really funny because he's like, Avengers, biggest movie of all time. I'm just giving a shout out to the crew and stuff. And I was like, The Rock. So now it's almost like The Rock is allowing this movie to make as much money as it is. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like that's what The Rock. It's
Free.
almost,
It's free advertising
exactly,
for
yeah.
Marvel. But yeah, it's crazy to think about this movie being like his start because
yeah.
again, he's not. I feel like it's the same way that we think about who's the guy that played Aquaman?
Momoa.
Yeah,
Jason Momoa.
like Jason Momoa in Game of Thrones. Like I feel like it's the same thing. We're like, man, he must be really huge in Game of Thrones, and he was really only in
One season.
in one season,
A couple of episodes, really, not
Yeah.
the whole thing.
But we associate him so much with Game of Thrones.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Everybody knows
that's
him.
what he's
Khal
from.
Drogo, Aquaman Drogo. Like you still hear that
Yeah.
like here, and he kind of acts very Drogo-ish in
He does
Aquaman
all the time. Yeah.
A really interesting. There's a lot of trivia for this movie, but I think one of the interesting ones that I wanted to tell you, and you were getting excited for it before
Ooh, yes,
we
yes,
recorded,
yes.
concerns the actor Freddie Both.
Yeah, because I'm interested. He's the kid.
Yeah, Freddie Both plays Alex O'Connell in this movie. He's
Yeah. How do you spell his name? I mean,
Freddie
don't remember.
Both.
I'll just look it up.
Boath, and then first name Freddie. He was such a big fan of The Mummy. You know, the earlier
Original?
movie, the 99 one. No, not the 30s.
Oh
one.
yeah.
He was such a big fan of the 1999 Mummy. He said reportedly he's seen it over 30 times.
Whoa.
He passed on an opportunity to play a character in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
That's gonna make me upset.
He passed on that character because he loves the Mummy so much.
That's insane.
So because he knows about the Mummy so much, he said it's one of his favorite movies. He was actually like they kind of consulted him, like the cast crew and
That's
even like the
funny.
filmmaker. They consulted him because he had such a like encyclopedic knowledge of that first movie.
And you know what's sad is he got replaced in the third one.
I mean, because the
He wasn't that
timeline,
old
yeah,
yet.
he wasn't that old yet.
I'm reading now a little bit about him. He went to college afterwards, and then he joined an advertising firm. He still acts a little bit. Doesn't look like he's been in anything since
Since then?
2013, which is a
Wow.
small show.
Ain't that crazy though? Like he passed on Harry Potter, which eventually would outgross this franchise like 10-1, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of weird because you're like, man, there's no way for him to have known. But
Who would he have been? I think Draco. Like he looks like a very perfect Draco Malfoy.
Well, he was joining. I don't think the very first one was it.
yeah, it was.
Oh my god,
he was.
Oh.
Yeah, he passed on an opportunity to play something in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It doesn't say what role he passed on, but he passed on that to be in the Mummy because he loved the Mummy so fucking much. Ain't that crazy? That's pretty insane.
Oh my god. So the role. Are you ready?
Yeah. So what would it have been? Was it
Harry Potter.
really?
Yep.
Wow.
That is insane. That's so sad for him.
I mean, I don't know. Like maybe the joke. I mean, does Daniel Radcliffe have?
I mean,
any
he
regrets?
was just going to go audition, so it wasn't like sure that he was going to get it.
Yeah.
But that's insane.
Oh, really? He was just going to go audition. I didn't know that. Or I thought he had like a secured a role and then.
But
passed on it.
he would have been Harry Potter if he got it.
Uh-huh. So he didn't meet. I guess he was on his way to meet Chris Columbus, and he
Yeah.
just said no because
He also said no to being, and I mean, this is not that awful of a pass, but Anakin Skywalker. But this was not. This was well before he auditioned for.
no, I can
Anakin
see that
before
too.
the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
But I mean, that's.
I love the fact that he's like this kid is very British here, and then in the Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, the kid sounds like a Texan.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny.
Yeah, and he was an interesting addition. He was a good actor. I would say that little kid was a really good actor in this movie. But yeah, I feel like having a child in a movie increases stakes. We talked about the Conjuring universe, but one of the reasons why that movie is so scary, if you watch them, they always include fucking
not fucking kids, but they always include kids.
Shit. Okay.
Should I edit that out?
No.
But
We know what you meant, but like,
yeah,
damn.
they always include kids because it raises the stakes for a horror movie. And in this movie, it kind of raises the stakes, but very early on, you're like, this kid can fucking handle his own thing.
I mean, it's kind of
They're not gonna kill this kid.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Some more trivia that I feel like is interesting is the fact that there are hundreds of real scorpions and tarantulas used.
I saw that, but you could also see the hundreds of fake ones.
Yeah, you can see the fake ones. I mean,
And
the
CGI.
The real ones are basically like close-ups of like a feet or something.
Do
like
you remember when they
stepping
have
on
to
them or
like
something.
flamethrower some
scarabs
scorpions back
yeah,
into the
scarabs or whatever?
Yeah.
Like those little the bugs from the first movie.
yeah,
like
that
the,
was like
the
$10
beetles.
billion.
It
That's
looks like
shot,
it. That's
yeah.
like there's so much shit in that shot. It's
Yeah.
just like it's
They
pretty insane.
flamethrower them. It kills some people, like on camera, fully on. Shows them killing, and then it cuts to the Egyptian girl looking and being like, "Oh, we're getting close," like not even caring. I was like, man, she dismissed this scene even though all these people died and it cost so much money.
I think it's kind of a little insulting. The character of Izzy is named after Stephen Summers' dog. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Some other ones is some other trivia is the fact that like every torch in the movie apparently it was really tough to keep them fucking lit because they only burned for 3 minutes at a time.
Wow.
So and then another
There's
one.
a lot of tortures in this movie.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm just like that's pretty fucking. What an annoying
Task.
shoot there
Yeah.
that would have been there. Also, I think that they tried to.
Why didn't they?
London Bridge, they
Yeah.
closed it for 20 minutes at a
I
time.
remember that because Brendan Fraser has to jump.
Yeah.
on it.
They closed London
so
Bridge for
stupid.
20 minutes at a time. Apparently, it caused traffic and like death threats to like the production crew that they like. I think
'Cause
London.
it's a busy street.
Yeah, I think London like actually modified that and said like we're only allowed to close it 10 minutes at a time.
It's funny because that scene was not that much like it was.
I think that's why they got away. Maybe that's why it's so short because like they could only
It was
do so
short,
much with
but
that.
then also in my head I was like, why this could all have been.
Isn't it just a scene of Brendan Fraser like on a double-decker bus? Like isn't that the only shot?
So he's also he's chasing it and it's like open. It's like I guess not closing.
Okay, I
as
remember
it-
that. Yeah.
And so it separates them, and I think he like has to try to jump across. But then for me, I was like, well, they did need to actually use London Bridge.
Yeah, it's
Like,
kinda
this could
weird.
be any bridge.
Yeah, fucking hell.
It could be a CGI bridge.
That's
It's funny because you're talking about the flames thing, and I was like, that's such a weird problem for a movie that probably had, I think it had like $100 million budget. Like, what a weird issue to have.
Yeah, exactly. And last but not least, actually two things. Rachel Weisz is obviously this was her first sequel. She would decline the opportunity to return though for The Mummy: Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, which as
We can talk about it a little bit right now. I like The Dragon Emperor, but there was a
you
new.
do. God damn, that movie to me is like really hard to watch.
It holds up better, I think, than this movie does.
Really, for a number. I mean, I remember Brendan Fraser. I remember visibly watching that movie and seeing and noticing like it's very noticeable that Brendan Fraser is bored.
Oh,
during that
he's
movie.
over it.
Yeah,
It is for me. I think it's just because it's a little bit different than the Mummy.
Yeah.
than the Mummy Returns because it's a different like place and it's
Yeah.
a different everything. And I
it's
was like,
also
okay,
a very
this is
different. It's a very different tone. It embraces the adventure aspect way more than these
The
first two
effects
movies.
are way better.
The effects are, I
little bit
guess, a
better.
little bit way better.
But yeah, and
there's a different actress, Maria Bello, who's amazing actress. She's just she's not the Evelyn that we remember.
and I think he also has a love thing for briefly with the because there's a lady emperor in it.
Yeah, there is.
There's a thing.
Michelle Yeoh, I think, is on it.
So
Michelle
yeah,
Yeoh.
it was a very different movie.
Yeah, very, very totally, very different. I can't watch that movie for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
Number one is like the very noticeably bored Brendan Fraser. There's a lot of overacting, I feel like, from Maria Bello.
Yeah.
For this movie, and I also think I don't think we've ever done that movie.
Okay. I
But,
feel like,
like-
have we talked about this?
And then the kid who plays Alex in that one, like the fully grown Alex, is like I said, like he's a Texan.
Yeah.
So like he like as opposed to being a very British kid.
Yeah, I was just. I mean, we talk about sequels all the time. That movie was a very blatant
Cash grab.
Yeah, and it's kind of
it's a lot of years. It came a little too late because it wasn't like a really big box office hit. I
it didn't
think
come right away.
No, it was
from
like
Mummy Returns. It was
like the 2008, like the year like Iron Man came out. Like,
yeah,
that's
so
when it fucking
at
came
that
out.
time movies had changed.
Yeah, and movies. I mean, the world left the Mummy like a long time ago.
Yeah, and it's not.
But it had like Jet Li. It had like someone like Jet Li as a star power. It's just also like because I remember watching the fight scene in that movie, and it's very, very weirdly edited.
It was, and there was another movie planned. I don't know if you know this. So because the Dragon Emperor did not fail. It made
Oh, it didn't fail.
$400 million. I mean, the
Holy
budget
shit.
was 145, so it didn't make as much as they thought, but it made more money than any of the other Mummy movies. It made so much money that they decided to make another Mummy movie called The Mummy: Rise of the Aztec, which would have been set in South
yes, you're right.
America.
Yeah.
All of the actors were going to be coming back, and the villain was going to be played by Antonio Banderas. But it was canceled because they decided to start working on the Dark Universe. So
On a reboot of it. Apparently.
Yeah. So it was actually going to be made in 2012, but I guess they decided it's time for the Dark Universe, baby.
And well, that's kind of funny. You said 2012, wasn't? I mean, not that it's funny at all, but
Yeah.
like in a cosmic sense, isn't that around the time where we just revealed that Brendan Fraser had his little mishap with the Fraser?
And I feel like that may be why it was delayed
Probably.
quite a bit.
Like behind the scenes, like that could have been the actual thing that killed it.
I'm going to go through this list before we wrap up our final thoughts, but they have Universal, and we talked about The Mummy and The Mummy Returns and The Scorpion King, but they also remade a lot of those other old Dark Universe movies. They remade Dracula with Frank Langella in the 80s, 1979. Van Helsing was remade with Hugh Jackman. I mean, we kind of talked about that. The Wolfman, remember the Wolfman with Benicio del Toro?
Del Toro, yeah.
And then Dracula Untold.
Dracula Untold, yeah.
So
there was another
they-
fucking Dracula movie also with Gary Oldman, the Bram Stoker one.
Oh yeah, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is a very different movie.
I think that's more off of the book
Yeah.
than anything else. But it's just really funny because then you get to, I guess that's the way. Does Dracula just talk like that? Anyone who's read Dracula, like by Bram Stoker, does Dracula just talk like this?
I mean,
like
that's the way the Count talks in Sesame Street.
Gary Oldman talks like a Bela Lugosi Dracula. If you watch that movie,
Yeah.
Like, he's basically doing a Bela Lugosi impression.
I'm looking into this right now.
And you won an Oscar for it.
I know. Yeah, but so I'm going to read this. In 2019, which is this year, Universal announced that the plan moving forward was to focus, for the Dark Universe, to focus on filmmaker-driven films and less of an interconnected Dark Universe, which again is, I think, what we were just saying.
That's great. Yeah.
The Invisible Man remake was announced by Leigh Whannell and produced by Blum. Johnny Depp is no longer attached.
Oh, the
as
Invisible Man.
previously
Yeah.
reported, but they are still open to him playing the lead role. I don't think that's going to happen.
Nope.
The following month, Blum stated the production will begin this year. In March, they announced that Depp was gone and Elizabeth Moss,
Sign on to it, right?
will sign on. But that's it so far. Just one movie, which is
The Invisible
I think
Man.
the way to go. Honestly, pick one movie.
And it's something that
Keep
you
going
haven't
from
seen.
there.
I mean, I guess Hollow Man can be sort of like a remake of
Yeah,
Invisible
they
Man,
have
sort of.
plenty of. I feel like a lot of these would still work. The Creature from the Black Lagoon, I think we should see for sure.
That's something, yeah. Everybody wants to see that. I think Del Toro wanted to make his own version of that for the longest time, and I think he did with
Okay.
The Shape of Water, really, if you think about it.
I'm not sure about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Do you remember The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, that movie?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Honestly, that movie, I feel like I was still into. Like, I'm still kind of like, this is pretty cool.
It's not bad.
But Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, like, it's similar to what I think they were trying to do. Very different people. Like, they're not, I mean, you have Captain Nemo, you have...
Based off of a
yeah,
comic by
but-
like Alan Moore.
Yeah,
that
but
one,
it's kind of like, I assume what they would like at some point.
something to do, something
Yeah.
like that. Oh, maybe. Again, like I thought, I
It's
like
one
the
of Sean Connery's like last movies ever.
I think it is his last movie.
Really?
I like the fact that what we were saying earlier, though. I like if they're going to do, not that I want them to do this crossover, and I hope there's no demand for it.
Yeah.
But I do like the Godzilla aspect of it. Like if they are going to cross over, they're probably going to be at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Which is like, makes sense. So because they're all these like monsters, and monsters don't like other monsters. I'm assuming. I'm not sure.
I mean, yeah. Well, that was it for Mummy Returns. We talked
was
about
it.
a lot. We ran the gamut of what we talked about.
That's totally true. I mean, I think I'm almost a little pooped just from this episode because like
you're pooping right now.
didn't expect it to go on this long, which is pretty funny.
We talked about sequels in general. We talked about world building. We talked about, of course, the Mummy and the Dark Universe. But I feel like this movie, and I guess we could talk about final thoughts. But this movie definitely feels like the time that it came out. I enjoyed it when I first watched it, and it's almost like one of those things that you can't go back and watch.
Oh yeah,
in a way.
tell us how you really feel.
Well,
Because you said you watched it recently, and hey,
I watched it, just like a couple hours ago. Yeah,
you said you didn't have fun. You said you
I
hated
did
it.
not, and I feel like it. I had such good memories of the Mummy when
It's almost like you soiled it, right, by watching
I
it
was
again.
like, man, I watched it again, and now I'm like looking at it, and we're just honestly spoiled because we're in the golden age of good TV, but also some really fantastic movies. Filmmaker, we've never had such a diverse
We were watching
group of filmmakers.
Call Me by Your Name right before we started recording,
which was a
so you're just
fantastic
like-
movies, and I was like, man, this is a very different kind of feel. But I feel like this is maybe good for the industry in a whole. The way that the movies that are successful now have to be pretty okay story wise, like and have to be more than just garbage.
Yeah.
no shit, like more than just a bunch of plot points and a bunch of action. Because I mean, the box office has shown that it's not enough. So I don't mind that this is happening right now. And I don't mind that we can look back at this movie and be like, this was really successful at the time, but it probably wouldn't be successful now. And that just goes to show, I feel, how much better we are now because we're spoiled by great content everywhere we look.
Yeah, exactly.
That we want a little bit more, and it's not to say that we want movies to be more complicated. We just want them to be a little bit more complete, I would say. And I don't know. But I think like this movie was really good at the time. I feel like it's still I don't know if I would watch it. I don't know if I would tell anyone to watch it, but I watched it. So that happened.
I think if purely on nostalgic stake, if you've seen it in the past, I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. I was like, I would say revisit it, but no, I would think you would probably want to watch the better movies, which
watch
is
one of these Mummy movies.
Watch the first Mummy.
Watch the first Mummy.
Yeah, the 1999 one. That being said, I've never seen the Tom Cruise, remake from a couple of years ago. I do want to watch it.
Yeah.
I've always heard just bad stuff about it, so like I'm kind of scared.
The action's good. I would say there's some really great action sequences. I mean, of course, he goes into a plane and Tom Cruise always has a fucking crazy action thing that you know was him because the camera's on the whole time. There's something like that. There's a plane crashes, and I think from behind the scenes they actually got it as close to actually crashing
as possible,
so that Tom Cruise could
like
be
act,
like thrown around
guess,
in that plane. So yeah, that sequence was okay. Like, I don't know. But
so if it's worth it just for that, then I guess go watch every other Mummy movie that isn't The Mummy Returns. I guess.
Watch
it's
the
good
old ones.
Yeah, or if you're doing like a little, unless you're drinking with friends or something, and you want to, go back to, that area of Hollywood filmmaking. I don't see why you wouldn't. I would say, stop at Tomb of the Dragon Emperor though, because I really dislike that movie. For a lot of reasons.
I think movies had gotten better at that point, and The Mummy kept the same.
Yeah. I guess it
got close to keeping the same formula.
It was very weird. Yeah, it's just a very weird movie in general. I mean, it is really cool that we got for The Mummy Returns. I think it is really cool that we got some stars out of it. Like you said, Rachel Weisz, which
and
is
The
still,
Rock, of course, from this. Yeah.
She just had another Oscar nom for The Favorite.
She's fantastic, and I feel like because of the money she made from this movie, she was able to choose roles that were very good, like with like The
Favorite.
The Favorite, yeah.
I
was gonna say, what was the movie that she? So and of course
Lobster.
the one that she won the Oscar with. But
she was great in The Lobster. Have you seen The Lobster?
Fantastic.
The Lobster's
I love
fucking
Lobster,
great. Yeah.
So I think we're at she was able to use this success. The ending of The Lobster is heartbreaking, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know how it ends, but sorry, spoiler. But Rachel Weisz was able to probably use the money she made from this movie to go into these roles that we're going to get paying as much, but probably more artistically fulfilling for her. I mean, I don't know. I assume, but yeah, I assume that's what
for
he
her.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like that's pretty much it. For our thoughts on The Mummy Returns.
Yeah.
In general for our first.
We watched it, so you don't have to.
Exactly. What the fuck season is this? Season 5?
I don't
season
even know.
6?
We're 4.
Season 5. No, I think season
5.
4 was last year.
Okay, this is season 5.
We had a half season last year. I'm sorry if anyone was actually. No, it wasn't even. Was it even last year?
3 or 4 episodes last year.
Yeah,
it was
that's
not
right.
That big.
Yeah, it was like we had a little mini season. We hope to get back
in the bank. We already have John Wick, Aquaman. We have this one.
Yeah.
So we have 4 in the bank.
I like how you just like naming these episodes out, like no promises on when they'll be released.
Well, I mean, they're recorded. A lot of them are recorded. So.
Yeah, that's true. And then we got some pretty exciting surprises for y'all, like coming up soon.
We should release that John Wick one we did before the new one.
Yeah, definitely.
Did we do a John Wick one?
Yeah, we did a John Wick 2
one.
Okay,
yeah. Shit.
Yeah, we should. You should totally release that.
Yeah,
that should be awesome. So we got some exciting movies coming up from you, and some not so exciting ones that we'll try to make as exciting as possible. Just at least talking about it.
And this conversation really, and actually, what's really great is looking back at that list of movies in 2001 and being like, "Oh shit, they're still doing the same thing."
Yeah, it's really funny.
So we're gonna have a lot of these conversations.
That's
where we're like, this is insane.
Yeah, that's the wouldn't say like that's a little strong. Let's say that's the tragedy of this podcast. We're just going in circles here, like technically.
It's Arrested Development.
Yeah.
This is Arrested Development. But it's also like, this isn't something that was common. This was not as common as it was between the 90s and now. Like, it's fairly common. We got to look up a list, but I think like every other weekend in the summer is a sequel. If not every weekend in the summer is a sequel. And I remember when they used to be very far and few between, where it would be like, oh, the sequel to this movie's coming out. And that was like the whole fucking month. You'd be like, shit, the sequel came out.
I'm getting deja vu. I feel like, I think we may have said this in a prior episode.
Okay.
Like,
this is a sequel. We're repeating the same thing.
Well, it's only because, like, I guess sequels are way more popular now than ever.
Oh, they're just the safest thing.
Because at some point they were shunned upon. Like, oh, fucking RoboCop 2. Like, why?
Direct to video. Like, a lot of these sequels
the Fox and the Hound 2.
Yeah, okay. Those are very different. But yeah, I mean, it was like a blasé thing, and people would be like, "There's nothing that you gain from them." But I think once these sequels started becoming good, because a lot of them are really good.
Yeah.
You were like,
not
shit.
this one, but like obviously like.
And we're not talking.
Ones,
I mean, recent sequels that were good. I mean, we're not talking. Obviously, Star Wars Empire was good. Godfather 2 was good. Like, we get it; those are really good.
Yeah.
But I mean, like recent movies that were really fantastic sequels. Was
like
it
Last Jedi?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's when people were like, let's not just, let's push the envelope of these stories. And, I think something really great. I mean, we'll talk about Marvel again, but they use the prequels to their advantage. They're like, we set a lot of the character in this one. Let's see how we can throw a big wrench in it or how we can advance it. So yeah, super exciting.
Yeah.
Well, John, what do you have to plug?
Listen to every all the Duff and Pod shows. Listen to Countdown to Infinity.
Yeah.
An Avengers podcast, Endgame edition, which just I don't even know if it's wrapped up. We can't really say it's wrapped up because
did you hear an episode just came out today, the listener mail episode.
Oh, really?
And
That's
I said that
awesome.
we were going on a Thanos type break. Where we would, we
did
did what we needed to do.
Did you freak a lot of people out? Now we can talk about it since it's not the Marvel podcast.
Well, I mean, like, Thanos came back, so I mean, I feel like
so you spoiled it for them.
Oh shit, sorry,
So
but
we're coming back.
It's just it's a lot of work, I will say, to put it out every single week. But also, we want to make sure that there's something valuable that we're doing. And, and we don't want to just like watch the movies again or do it again.
Yeah, because there's a very we're in danger of because we talk about we can talk a little bit of it now. We don't not reveal the whole thing, but we usually talk behind the scenes or like off the record. Talking about how we can expand on it. But we also really don't want to be going in circles. So we don't want to be saying the same things.
Value of the
like we don't. Product. As far as as much as we do love the attention, I don't know if we want to ever get clickbaity.
You'll never believe what I learned. I'm kidding. But you know what I will
say,
say,
what I mean?
though?
Like stuff like that. We don't want to seem like we're just desperate.
I will say our listeners are giving us some good ideas that I'll share with you. Once
definitely.
We collect a lot, and some of them are really, really good. And some of them are like it's going to take a little bit of work for us, like to plan, because some of them are like having to do with the comic books, or I mean, of course. A lot of people want us to watch these Disney Plus shows, which is interesting, but I feel like we should see what they are first.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what if these are?
What if they suck?
What if these are not worth?
We're gonna be like talking about Iron Fist and shit.
But I think what's really great about that show is people are very into the world. Like, imagine like this being in the Marvel world. And you want to know as much as you can. It's
super duper passionate about that world, which is awesome. Like, everybody was so nice. I thought we were gonna get more hate. I'm not sure if you're just hiding the hate from me and Drew.
This season, I will say we didn't get a single bad review, which is insane. I mean, because we got a lot of we get a lot of reviews. Weekly, we get new reviews, and none of them have been bad. All of our listeners are very supportive, and they haven't for me, if you don't like the podcast, just don't listen to it. And that's fantastic. But so far, more people are listening, and they aren't not liking it, and also
saying they don't like it.
Because then ultimately, just pick another thing.
Well, I'm just laughing
because
this
is free.
If anyone's ever done that, that's just hilarious that you've listened to it because you still gave us the click. I guess.
Thanks for the download, baby.
Yeah. But no one's ever been. I've never seen any negative feedback on the podcast, save for maybe a couple of reviews. But everybody, I mean, that's you're allowed to,
and part of that
you're allowed to say whatever you want.
Part of that was because I think the second season we've gotten really good at at not just explaining, but setting expectations for what it was.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that helped us not get any bad reviews was the first podcast. Sometimes we would just go right into it.
Right into it,
If you
yeah.
weren't expecting what it was, like you would just be like, what is happening right now?
That's totally true. We brought over a lot of just the personalities that we've done honing in on this show.
Yeah.
You know, the old Revenge of the Sequel seasons. So yeah, I guess because there was one review saying something about like us talking over each other.
Oh,
and
we read all the bad reviews.
that
by the way.
happens too. Like
yeah.
you know, so like you know, it happens here like a lot more here than it does on Countdown. But I mean, that's whatever. I mean, y'all are allowed. I don't know where I was going with this. I guess y'all are allowed to.
Are you about to shame people or something?
No.
Read the names of the bad reviewers out loud. Let's get them.
No, it's just I guess what I'm trying to say ultimately is expressing my thanks again for people who just kind of like liking that podcast because you know it all bloomed out of this one really.
Although the audience in the other one's way bigger.
Yeah, the audience obviously on the Marvel one is way bigger, and you know naturally because you know it's awesome.
But I will say that if we do come back for another season, it will be because the listeners wanted it. Like it's not.
Oh, definitely, it's not. It's
the reason we came back for season 2 was because of that, and so it helped. It helps that we know that people are listening and want more.
Yeah, definitely. And then I mean Spider-Man: Far From Home has yet to come out, so like you know
it will come out
that
soon.
will be
A thing.
Yeah, that will be a thing for the Countdown podcast, not so much the ROTS, even though it does kind of lend itself to that one.
Release it on both.
Ooh, you're gonna piss some people off.
Everyone who listens to this probably listens to Countdown to Infinity.
Hopefully,
to be honest with you.
But yeah, now that we're back here, it's nice
good
to be back. It's nice, yeah.
And so subscribe, like this podcast. We talked about shaming people who don't like it, but review it for sure.
Yeah.
And then if you want to keep a lot of our podcasts going, go to patreon.com/StuffandPod, listen to all the shows, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll
These
see you
are
next
gonna
week.
Come out every week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, bye.